Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to an album review that I didn't really think was going to be an album. It's kind of confusing. I guess you could call it an EP or an album. It's kind of interchangeable at this point. Grabbitz, Better With Time. And while Monster Cat is considering this an album, it has basically the same playtime as his Friends EP that came out earlier this year. And if you remember, I reviewed that. I was actually pretty impressed with that EP earlier this year, except for a couple small picks I had with it. I think Grabbitz showed off a really awesome sound that was unique to him and was putting out something a lot different than a lot of trap and dubstep producers were putting out at the time. And with this EP, he kind of, at least with the release of Float Away, the pre-order track on Monster Cat, or the lead single I guess you could say, we knew he was basically going to go with more of an indie dance sound with this album. And through that, he is taking a big risk because he's producing something much out of his comfort zone. But in a way, I think the way he's progressing with this album is quite a bit less unique than he had on his last EP. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think this album is bad. I just think because of the situation and because this is kind of showcasing as a debut album for Grabbitz, he should have used more of his standard style, and I honestly think that the Friends EP could have made a better album than this one did. Like I said, he's taking a big chance with this album, and on a few tracks it does work, and on about half of the album it basically doesn't. It starts off with your kind of standard Grabbitz intro, featuring some pretty awesome piano lines actually, and some cool violin and ambient noises. I'm always a sucker for those. The intro's called Hope, leading into the title track Better With Time, which although it does have a couple standard Grabbitz sounds in it, I think it fell pretty flat in the end. Of course we get an interlude type track with Intermission on this one, which I actually didn't like as much as the transition short on the Friends EP. I actually thought that one was one of my favorites on EP, but Intermission really kind of fell flat. And when he's kind of heading towards this indie dance sound, I think he feels the need to kind of feature himself as a vocalist a lot, perhaps even more than he did on the Friends EP. And while on that EP, it seemed to me like the vocal appearances were very personal and connectable, I really don't think the vocal appearances in this one by Grabbitz himself are anything spectacular, especially on Make You Mine and Better With Time. The last three on the album are pretty spectacular, and songs like Float Away, which I had heard on Monster Cat before the pre-orders started, I'm pretty in love with, honestly, and production seems both interesting and connectable. The vocal appearances seem nice. He features Lane on the closing track Cold, which is actually a full track rather than Walk to the Gallows, which we got on the last EP. Get Out was really just thumping, catchy, kind of seems a little bit more drum and bass styled, but it really isn't when you kind of analyze it. Float Away completely takes most of the album on a flip, kind of providing this really happy and cheerful sound with production, and kind of reminds me of the kind of Luther or Summer Was Fun sound we were hearing earlier this year. I think with Cold we're actually getting a bit of a taste of a pop sound from Grabbitz, and I think this, although it's not my absolute favorite on the album, just super catchy, and I really want to see him progress on this style. I think the best rating I can give this one is a solid 6. Like I said, a little bit more than half the album was really good for me. I do think this one was a step backwards from the Friends EP, and I think if he would have combined some styles from that and combined it with some indie dance sounds, then this one could have been really, really solid, although the kind of standard sound used on this does provide for a little bit more of a concept. I would have preferred it to be a little bit more diverse for a debut album from Grabbitz, which is what it's being considered by Monster Cat. I hope you guys dig this one, even though I didn't love it as much. And if you did dig it, or if you didn't dig it, just let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little review, and I'll see you later. Peace.